Hello there, you playlist creators, you album connoisseurs, you listeners to 7-inch singles, and general fans of music in whichever way
Yeah.
you are. Welcome to Full Record Jacket with Phil and Ben.
Yo,
Again, we are in 1994.
I've got a question from 1994, Philster.
You have?
No, it's actually from 17 minutes past 5. Do fish drink water? Do you think fish ever get thirsty?
Don't they absorb some of it? I don't know.
I don't know. So if I have a spillage on my floor, if I throw a fish on it, it will act like a sponge.
I'll tell you what, I'm really getting into the 1994 thing.
What on earth is that? Is that a Discman?
Do you remember these?
I do, yeah. Somebody posted the other day that there's a Discman in a museum. Wow.
Well, I've got one. And
has it got the anti-shock on it?
I'm not sure that it has, you know. It's got mega bass.
Mega bass. When bass isn't enough, what you need is mega bass.
There's a selector on the side. You can have 3 levels of bass on the side. Yeah, I tested it. It works. Obviously, you can plug your headphones in. You can plug it into a 9-volt power supply as well. But it actually took me a while to remember how you put the batteries in. They are actually they're in there.
So is that 3 levels of mega bass? Is it like mega bass, very mega bass, and then mega bass?
It went very bassy. When I plugged my very decent Sennheiser headphones into it, and it was enough bass on the lowest setting. So
was it the Ace of bass?
But yeah, the only thing with this one is it works fine. But while it's playing, if I just squeeze it there slightly, for some reason it stops the disc.
Yeah, puts the friction on it. I had a couple of Discmans. I remember picking them up for 20 odd quid. And I remember buying one, and I bought one. I thought, oh, that's a really good offer. And I think I got it from the Argoose. Because it's about scouse birds, Argoose. And it didn't have the anti-shock on it. And it was, who was buying it? Surely nobody owned one without the anti-shock on it.
Yeah, I think that's got, and maybe I don't know whether that's quite an old one. I don't know whether that's got anti-shock or not. It's fine for sitting out in the garden or something, you know. Walking around, it's a bit too heavy for walking around, really, unless you have it in a bag or something.
Yeah. Do you know what I might? Because you know all the kids these days are listening to the vinyl.
Yeah,
might bring out like the Vinyl Man, like a portable 12-inch record player.
Imagine
just carry around with you. You got to have the amp on your back,
yes.
Then the record player on your front, but it'd have to be one of those side like flat record player that way, vertical ones. And then obviously you'd have to have power supply, and then you just have like some speakers on your shoulders. Do you know what? Kids will buy it. They buy anything these days. I mean, let's face it, people spent thousands of pounds on Prime. So that just shows that people will buy anything.
Yeah,
you'll literally like one of those one-man bands, won't you? You come down and and then obviously you're going to have like the eye sock where you can store your records in it.
Yeah,
because you don't want to just be caught out with just the one record, do you? A bit of Julio Iglesias. You might want to mix up and put the House Martins on or Simply Red. So you need to get down. Philster, it could happen.
It could do.
Yeah.
It could be the next thing for Generation Z.
It could well be. Do you know what? There's many things that I could come up with that could improve the world, and that is just one of them, I think. So, but yes, 1994.
So yeah, while we're currently in 1994, have you been listening to any music?
I have. I listened to 78 minutes and 38 seconds of which album from 1994?
78 minutes of it.
38 seconds.
Quite a long album. Did they squeeze all that onto one CD back in the day? I suppose they did.
I think they did. I think it's actually longer than Be Here Now.
Went a little bit beyond the Red Book limit to make the CD.
Yeah.
78 minutes long. What would have been that?
3 tracks released from it. The first
90.
one was 21st of November 1994. Yeah, then had the second one in 27th of February 95, which is crazy. Yeah, and then the last single was released in October 95. So 3 singles released 11 months apart from each other. Like, you know.
Okay. Is this a hip hop album?
No, it's not a hip hop album.
It's a band.
It's a band, a British band.
From 94.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think which band would have had an album that long. I'm trying. The only British bands I can think of from '94. Blur, that was Part of Life, but that was a pretty standard length album.
Yeah.
The Suede debut album was a pretty standard length album. It wasn't 78 minutes long.
Wasn't the Suede debut album out in 93? Wasn't Dogman Star 94?
Oh, 94 was Dogman Star.
Yeah.
But it's not Dogman Star, though, is it?
No.
And that's quite a long album, I think, but maybe not that long. Which band would it have been? I'm trying to think. I'm drawing a blank on this. I should perhaps know this, but I can't. Can you give me a clue? What letter does it start with?
T.
The band begins with T.
Yeah, because the first word is 3 letters long. I've just realised I look a little bit smaller than you on screen because I'm sat in my comfier chair today and it's a bit more bucketed, so I'm a bit further back. And I'm just wondering, because we literally do no prep before we come on, to whether I've decided to use a webcam today because I wasn't happy in the last videos of the clarity of my video, and I'm still not happy with it. I look quite faded on screen. But anyway, back to the band, Phil. It begins with it was recorded in Wales. I think it was recorded.
It's the something, isn't it?
Yeah. I've just disappeared off the screen.
You have disappeared off the screen. I don't know why you've done that. Let's try and put you back on.
There I am.
Back on.
The adult rating's back on now that I'm back.
I'm trying to think what this band
would be. You want a few more clues? Would you like a few more?
Surely going to be obvious, isn't it, when I hear this?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, produced by Simon Dawson and Paul Schroeder.
Well, it's not The Cure. I don't think they made an album in '94.
It had 12 songs and 1 bonus track, which gets the number 90.
Is it? No, it's not The Cranberries.
It's not The Cranberries.
Well, they were technically Irish anyway, weren't they?
Yeah. It went to number 4 on the UK album charts.
That's been a pretty big act, fairly popular. Is it
47 on the US Billboard chart?
Is it not their first album?
It's not their first album. It was their second album. Long-awaited second album.
Oh, of course. It goes on for that long because hasn't it got some kind of weird track at the end of it?
Yeah, the Foz.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I know what it is now. And isn't there quite a lot of silence before you get to that as well?
I don't know. Possibly.
It's the Stone Roses.
No, it's the Lighthouse Family's Ocean Drive. That came out in 95 anyway. It is the Stone Roses. I listened to the Stone Roses and it's very it's very Led Zeppelin-y, very sort of proggy, very long.
I see it as a jam album. They're jamming, really, aren't they?
Yeah. It's good. I can see why people. This is the thing, isn't it? A lot of bands fall into this trap of, you have that iconic first album. Everybody wants all your albums to be the same. But I did enjoy it. It probably, my other really favourite long album is obviously Be Here Now. And I wouldn't say I enjoyed this as much as I do Be Here Now, but it was a good album. I don't think it deserved the sort of slight panning it received at the time. But I think that's because, a bit like Be Here Now, anticipation and that sort of, expectation can sometimes overwhelm the end product in the end.
Yeah, I like it. I like.
I do as well. It's very bluesy and.
The big opening track, was it Breaking Into Heaven?
Breaking Into Heaven, yeah.
Build up and then Driving South.
Yeah.
I like Daybreak. I like.
Yes, yeah. And obviously 10 Story Love Song and Love Spreads are great tracks.
Yeah, 10 Story Love Song was the most sort of conventional anthem type song on there.
10 Story Love Song.
Love Spreads is very good. I do really like Love Spreads. I quite enjoy that album. I think it's good. I think it's actually aged better than many people thought it would do at the time. A lot of people were saying, "Oh, this will just be filed away in your attic in 10 years' time and you'll never remember it, and your children will make fun of you for owning it." I actually remember there was a review that said your children in the future will make fun of you for owning this album.
Well, this is the future, and the children are buying it.
So or they're streaming it anyway.
Well, yeah, they're doing that. But no, I enjoyed the album. I thought it was really good. I do like that sort of, if you like Led Zeppelin, a bit, proggy, rocky thrown in, and some shoegaze. Would you say there's a little bit of, because of Ian Brown's vocal is quite sort of, I wouldn't say it's a shoegaze album, but it's got sort of.
Well, it's got songs that go on quite long, and it's about their jamming, and it's the vibe, and it's not just pop rock songs, is it? So I suppose in that sense, I sort of see what you mean. But it's I think he was listening to a lot of that 70s stuff at the time.
Yeah. So I listened to that. Yeah. So I mean, John Squire does say, I think in interviews, that he put too many guitars on it. So, and then I had a bit of a left field turn, because then I decided to listen to TLC's Crazy, Sexy, Cool, which I quite enjoyed at the time. I think I listened to it more in '95 than I did when it came out. But it's of its time. I know I use that a lot, but the production and that is very much of that sort of time. But the singles from it, like Digging on You and Waterfalls, Creep, they haven't dated, but I think the overall sort of feel of the album does feel of its time feel. So,
that Waterfalls, that was that long ago. I must admit, I didn't realize it was that long ago.
Yeah. And I think that it's weird, because it has aged, but it hasn't aged, if you know what I mean. If Waterfalls or Creep, I mean, people have, ripped off Creep a couple of times, but if they got released now, I don't think they would sound out of place. But I think it's the filler tracks, because they are of that sort of, mid-90s hip-hoppy R&B production sort of style. So,
were they a trio?
They were a trio. Was it T-Boz, Lisa Left Eye Lopez, and right, I'm gonna have to have a look. Right, here we go, because I don't know. I'm sure it was T-Boz or T-Bone. No, T-Bone's a steak, isn't it? TLC.
They were all women, weren't they? They were female.
They were all women. Unfortunately, Lisa Left Eye Lopez is no longer with us. She died in a car accident in is it Honduras, somewhere like that, in about 2001. Yeah, she died at the scene. Here we go. TLC. I was right. T-Boz. So T.O. and T-Boz Watkins, Lisa Left Eye Lopez, and Rosonda Chili Thomas.
So their names make up the TLC.
They do make up the TLC. And Lisa Left Eye Lopez, 2002. She passed away in a car accident. So, so I listened to that, and it's not going to crack my top 3. But it was nice to revisit it, Phil. It was sort of nice to go back and sort of hearing things like Waterfalls and Digging on You. I hadn't heard Digging on You for a long time. Digging on you, digging on me. It sort of did take me back to that sort of 95 sort of. But it took me more back to 95 than 94, because I remember listening to it when I was poorly with glandular fever, Philster.
There's been a few of those 3-girl vocal groups.
Atomic Kitten.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the sort of the American ones, the R&B ones. There was, do you remember On Vogue?
On Vogue. What about SWV? Were they a 3-piece?
May have been. It was that kind of thing. And then do you remember? And then obviously there was the. Do you remember what were the ones that did No Scrubs? Who did that?
That was TLC.
That was them as well. Well, that was a bit later, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then didn't you have Wilson Phillips, weren't they? I know they weren't R&B, but they were a 3-piece, weren't they?
They were a 3-piece. So then I'm thinking of, then of course there's TLC, and then there was the one with I can never remember her name. What's the one that was
Destiny's Child?
No, the one that used to go out with Lewis Hamilton.
Oh, Pussycat Dolls. They weren't a 3-piece. There's about 6 of them.
There's about 6 of them.
Okay. The one I just said before, Destiny's Child, they were a 3-piece.
Yeah, the one with Beyonce, and that was the big one. But they all kind of blur into one for me. I would never remember who did which.
They all sound a bit samey, don't they? After a while.
Well, if you're not deeply into that kind of music, I suppose it does sound a bit the same. But then I suppose
because when you had Mystique, do you remember Mystique, the British?
Oh right, yeah, they were the British answer to that.
Yeah, and obviously Atomic Kitten, they were a 3-piece. So I tell you what, very underrated band. Their debut album was really, really good. Was Sugar Babes. In fact, a couple of their albums are quite good actually. So go listen. Anyway, last on my 94 sort of, homage was keeping it sort of R&B hip hoppy feel. As you know, I like to, delve into the hipping and the hopping in. You
like to hang out in the hood with your homies and your and your gold chain and your Lamborghini. Yeah,
you know that. I wear bikini all the time. Was Brooklyn's street hustler finest, the notorious But It Guh.
I've actually heard that album.
It was good. I enjoyed it.
Is that? Sorry, which one is that?
Oh, Ready to Die.
Yeah, I have heard that one.
Yeah.
Long time ago.
I think, because 95 will throw up All Eyes on Me by Tupac. One thing I've listened to some of these older hip hop albums is, I suppose it's like all good. You look at things like Led Zeppelin, Beatles, and all that. It doesn't date. It dates well, is what I'm trying to say, Philster. It dates well. Like, listen, modern hip hop, apart from sort of some of the sort of obscure stuff. And when I say obscure, I don't mean like a horse juggling a sack of melons while he's hip hopping in. Just bands that aren't in the mainstream. What was I saying? Yeah, modern hip hop is basically.
You think it goes out of date? Yeah.
No, modern hip hop just doesn't have a voice anymore. Whereas back then, I know there was a lot of sort of, sort of penis waving, as it were, with then again, a lot of music's about that anyway. But but a lot of it did have a sort of undertone to, their own oppression and all this sort of stuff. Whereas modern hip hop doesn't. And I'm not categorizing all modern hip hop in that, because there is some good stuff, but a lot of the mainstream stuff is absolute duck's jizz.
Well, I haven't listened to any modern hip hop or recent, new hip hop for so long. I'm totally out of it. I've no idea about any of it, so I wouldn't really be able to say
you're only just catching up with the Sugar Hill Gang, aren't you?
Exactly. And White Lines, Grandmaster Flash, and your hip hop, you don't stop to the, what was it called, the hip hoppity beat or something like that. Yeah,
I love it when you start rapping, Phil. Gives me a little.
Don't push me because I'm close to the edge. I'm just trying not to lose my head. That's where I am at the moment. With
I know you are.
This
you are a ghetto
thing.
Superstar, aren't you? You up? It's going to come a real shock to you in about 17 years' time when you find out Tupac's dead.
I'm going to be taken aback, aren't I?
You are going to be. Let's face it, you're in the 70s at the moment. I hate to break it to you, but John Lennon isn't with us anymore. Nor's Dale Winton, which is a bigger shock.
Well, okay. So you've listened to 3 albums of 94.
I've listened to 3 albums of 94. I did listen to... I was going to listen to Definitely Maybe again for no reason other than I was going to listen to Definitely Maybe. And then I took a left turn and thought, no, I'm going to show some respect to the latter 3 albums of that band instead. And I forgot how really good Don't Believe the Truth was. So I don't have to listen to Definitely, maybe because I know it's like the back of my face.
I'm going to listen to Beck's debut album.
That's on my list next to listen to. And who was the other one I was going to listen to? Oh, I can't remember. It was an American group. I don't know. I was going to have a look, see if Baby Bird had an album out that year, because I know they had the one out in 95, but I was going to see if I could find an obscure Baby Bird album.
Possibly. There's Beastie Boys had one. There was Green Day had one.
Ducky was out, wasn't it?
Yeah.
See, I kind of get the Beastie Boys. I understand what they're there for, but it's all a bit shouty to me.
I think I've said this before, but I've always preferred to sort of watch and hear the Beastie Boys, like videos when they used to sometimes perform on TV shows.
Yeah.
I enjoyed watching them, and rather than just hearing them.
Yeah.
But I enjoy them, but I don't tend to sort of listen to them at length.
No, because it just. Do you know when you've been in a like? It's like coming out of a nightclub, moaning your ears are hurting, and then plugging your ears into AC/DC's amplifiers, and just it's not good for you. Like I said, I appreciate them for what they are, but I don't think I could. You're never going to catch me saying, "Oh, by the way, I literally had the Beastie Boys on repeat." It's not happening.
I was just going to have a look at some of the other albums of 1994. I did have a list on earlier.
Oh, I tell you, who had one out. Didn't Tori Amos have an album out? 94, isn't that the sort
Under the yep, that's the one.
Cornflake Girl sort of time, wasn't it?
Under the Pink was the title of the album.
I'm just going to bring up 1994 albums just to see what I can get into. I am trying to find more obscure albums. Obviously, Jeff Buckley's Grace album.
Yeah.
I need to get that listen. Oh, I don't need to listen to it because I've listened to it quite a few times before. In fact, I used to listen to that album back in about the early 2000s. I went through a stage of listening to that album a lot. I'm not sure if I can bring myself to listen to Part Life because I think I did listen to it a bit and it just annoyed me. And that's not an Oasis Blur sort of.
Don't want to be a habitual voyeur of what is known as
Part Life.
Just do the second half. Don't just go past the hits and go into the second half.
I might have to do that then.
Just do the second half of the album.
Yeah.
You might find that interesting.
But I definitely will do the Mellow Gold Beck album. I'm definitely going to do that. And
now, talking of American alternative wacky stuff, Weezer.
Oh yes, the Weezer album, the Blue album.
Now, I've never really listened to that.
Just like Buddy Holly.
I don't know whether I would actually like it. I've always had the feeling that they're a little bit like slightly irritating American student rock. Is that right? Or
you mean like Flood of Giants, whatever?
They might be giants.
They might be giants.
I've always had a feeling they might be a bit like that, but am I right?
I don't think they are. I think they're nothing on this earth. Well, apart from one person I know, is as annoying or virally just awful as I can't even bring myself to say their name because it angers me.
Now, there's one album I remember coming out in 94. I must admit, if you'd asked me, I would have said this album came out a year or two later, but it's 94. But I remember pretty much everybody I knew who was into music and on the scene, going to gigs and stuff, respected this album or liked it, and that's Portishead's debut album.
Dummy album. I love that album.
Can't remember ever coming across anyone who slagged that album off, to be honest.
I never really got things like trip hop until the last sort of few years. Well, I was not fun. I didn't get it because I had a lot of, back in the early 2000s, there was a lot of chill out music and all that sort of stuff. but I have found Portishead as a albums band a couple of years ago, around lockdown time, and I put it on, and I was like, I funking love this. So I really do like, and through that, it was like my gateway into exploring a bit more trip hop. So, and I was almost going to say Filster. 94 was going to be the year of one of my guilty pleasures, but I've just realised I think it came out in 95.
Okay.
That's wet. Picture this.
Flipping out, that's
Julia said.
Flipping out, that's a guilty pleasure.
I'll tell you what else came out in 94. Before you go, I'm going to tell you Bon Jovi's Crossroads, one of the greatest compilations of 1994.
Yeah.
By Bon Jovi.
We'll reach a crossroads with that one then. How about a female-fronted alternative rock band? In fact, they were all female.
Hole.
I think. Remember Veruca Salt?
Oh, Veruca Salt, yes. What's another TV show called Veruca Salt as well?
Veruca Salt's a character from
Willy Wonka.
Yeah, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, yeah.
She was the obnoxious girl, wasn't she? But also, yeah, there was Veruca Salt. Their album was called American Thighs. But of course, you're right. The whole album as well, Live Through This by Hole, was that year as well.
Yeah.
Quite a few women in alternative music that year.
Was Elastica's album 94, or was that 95?
I think that was later. I think that was 95 or 96. 95, maybe.
Yeah. What about Sleeper? Sleepers was the It Girl. Was that 96?
I think that's 96. I don't know for sure.
Louise Weiner, I love you.
Yeah, I'm just looking at this list. I think we've kind of mentioned most of them.
Yeah. I want to find an obscure one that we haven't mentioned yet, and I want to listen to it.
Do you know one, viewers? Do you know an album from 1994 that's obscure enough for Ben to have never heard of it, and you think maybe, just maybe, might have a chance of becoming his top 3 album of 94? Yeah.
Well, there's only 2 positions left, Phil, so...
That's true. Yeah, there's not much.
Same with 95. 95's kind of, I'm already 33% of the way there as well.
You are, but there you go. That's it. Well, you could always not put them in and then just hope that I do, but that would be a bit of a risk. So,
I wouldn't do it as
I wouldn't play double bluff if I were you on that one.
Yeah.
So, thanks for watching, viewer. We do appreciate it. We love all your likes and shares and comments. Keep them coming. Thank you very much. We will see you next time.